Hello friends, welcome back to the tetrahedron chemistry classes. So guys, this is my second lecture on microwave spectroscopy, and before going to explain the things in the second lecture of microwave spectroscopy, I would like to go back for just a recap so that you guys have a little idea what we have discussed in the last class. And one more thing, sir, there may be viewers which are viewing this video for the first time. So for them also, actually, I would like to actually review the first lecture, okay, or I want to give you the recap of the first lecture rather. I'm also giving you the link in the description for the first lecture, okay. So we see what we have actually discussed and how we actually forms the basis of this microwave spectroscopy, okay. So from here I was started where I have given the rotational spectroscopy, right, and the ranges in terms of the hertz, in terms of the frequency, in terms of your time scale, and in terms of your energy. I have discussed all these things, okay. Then I have also discussed the essential conditions which are required for a molecule to be microwave active, okay. And then you see these were the two conditions. And then I have discussed the concept of the moment of inertia, because in that case in case of your IR spectroscopy, in case of your Raman spectroscopy, in case of your microwave spectroscopy, this moment of inertia is very important, because it can be related to the reduced mass actually which are used in the microwave, which are used in all the three spectroscopic techniques. So I have discussed all these things at the three different components of your moment of inertia in the x, y and z coordinate. I have discussed all these things. And then I have discussed the concept of your ellipsoid, and based on the concept of the ellipsoid, I have also classified the molecules, whether molecules based on their geometry or say their ellipsoid, whether they are the microactive or they are microwave inactive. And then I have discussed the three components of your moment of inertia. In some cases all are equal, of course the microwave inactivity would be there, and in some cases all are unequal, microwave activity, and in some cases one is lesser than the other two, and same things like all these things, and based on this I have classified the molecules, okay. So up to this particular point I have discussed the things actually, right. And now this is my second lecture, which is resonance in the microwave spectroscopy, and I have also discussed this concept of the resonance in NMR spectroscopy also. But see guys, it is actually very important to understand the resonances in every kind of the spectroscopy, because when we understand how actually this resonance is going on in the particular spectroscopic technique, only then we can generate the spectrum. So basically resonance will give you the idea that how we are generating actually the spectrum, particular kind of the spectrum. So if you see this particular diagram, here you see HCl molecule I have shown here, okay. So I am showing you the HCl molecule here. You see this is my HCl molecule, and in this HCl molecule guys, you can see this is the positive end, because it is a polar molecule, and this is the essential condition for the microwave activity, the molecule must be polar. And then you see in the second instance, this is negative end, positive end, again this is positive, and you see the negative end, okay. And then you are having again negative and positive end. Similarly here negative, positive, here positive and negative, this is positive and this is negative. So what actually is happening in that case, you see this is the sinusoidal wave, this wave is your sinusoidal wave, okay. And your molecule, say this is the HCl molecule, and in that case you see this dipole moment is actually facing upward, and this molecule actually is rotating. So how it is rotating, say this molecule is rotating in that manner. So what will happen in that case, your hydrogen will come at this particular place and hydrogen will go at that place, then you will have your second orientation. So in that case your microwave, your dipole moment, right, is actually pointing in the other direction. Say here it is going upward, and in the second case, see here in the first case it is going upward, in the second case actually it is going from left to right, okay. And then again you can see here rotation actually continues, and what happens after that, say for example if this continues, say again, say this can go up and this can come down, okay, or say what we can do, actually it is not happening in that fashion. So there is little error in the diagram, so I want to correct that particular error here. So it is rotating in that manner, right, just like that, it will go up. So what will happen, your CL will go up, of course it would be CL negative, okay, or say, okay, let me correct it. Actually in that case you can see, in the first case actually your dipole moment is facing downward, because you know dipole moment is always facing towards the electronegative atom, so it is facing downward, okay. Rest is okay, okay. And when it is rotating in that manner, now in the next case, so it will go upward. Now see, this is in that case, if you change this, so it is again say facing downward. Then if it is rotates, then it is going from right to left, and then it is upward, then right to left and right to left. So this is the direction of the dipole moment which actually is showing. So what will happen in that case? See, whenever these molecules, see, it is simply a heteronuclear diatomic molecule, okay. So whenever these molecules with permanent dipole moments, they actually, when they rotate, actually they generate the fluctuating electric field. So this rotation, actually this rotation which is going on, right, it will generate a fluctuating electric field, and definitely when the fluctuating electric field would be there, then there would be some associated frequency, okay. And in that case, if you actually if you are shining light, or sorry, if you are actually giving you the radiations, you know what you do, you give the IR or IR radiation or your microwave radiation for this one. So they will also have their frequency. So what will happen, when the frequency of the rotating molecule matches with the frequency of the incoming radiation, what will happen, the energy correspondence would occur. That means the energy from the radiation, it is very important, energy from the radiation will go to the molecule, and when the molecule will when the molecule absorb energy, then it will change its rotational quantum number. That means it will change the J value, and you know the delta J would be plus minus 1 in that case, okay. So when this J value changes, so this is what actually, this is the resonance, right. Or it is not necessary that your molecule may jump from always from lower to higher, it may fall back from higher to lower. So that is, if it is going from J0 to J1, that is plus 1. If it is coming back from J1 to J0, it is minus 1. These are the allowed transitions actually. So this is the concept of the resonance which you should understand. Only when this resonance would occur, and then you will get your microwave spectrum. So here you can see in the bottom rotation, see in that case, rotation of HCl molecule having permanent dipole moment and fluctuating in the vertical component of the fluctuation in the vertical component of the dipole moment, okay, of the molecule changes periodically means after a certain period of time. That means the dipole moment will actually change, and when this happens, actually the resonance would occur. So what actually I have explained you here, say now you can go for the different kinds of the spectrum. Say for example, now this you have understood, I think, okay. Now in the next page, what you can check, okay, say absorption microwave spectrum, absorption microwave spectrum, actually how it generates. Then there would be emission microwave spectrum. However, we always deal with the absorption kind of the spectrum, not the emission kind of the microwave spectrum. So what has happened actually, as I already told you, the molecules with permanent dipole moment, when they rotate, actually they generate the electric field, and this electric field will have certain frequency, right. This rotating molecule will generate when it generates the fluctuating electric field with a certain frequency, and at the time if you are passing the radiation to the molecule, what will happen when the frequency of the incoming radiation matches with the frequency of the rotating molecules, then the energy correspondence would occur. That means the energy from your electric field, it will go to the molecule. Okay. This phenomenon is known as the resonance. Okay. And what will happen in that case, when this happens, then you will have the absorption spectrum, right. When your energy goes from radiation to molecule. Okay. And see in the next thing what it can happen actually, see in the second instant, molecules actually when it is going to when it goes to the higher energy level or higher rotational energy level, from there actually it falls back to the ground state, and when it falls to the falls back to the ground state, it will radiate some energy. Okay. And in that case, whatever the spectrum you will get, it would be the emission spectrum. So this is something very, very important. So here in that case, basically J equals to J goes to J1, that means delta J equals to +1, and in that case in the emission spectrum delta J equals to -1. You should know this particular thing. Now see this you have understood. Now we can go for the another thing, right, rotational spectra and their property, and this is something very, very important. So guys, see, you know, a molecule can have the different kinds of the energy, and you know the all kind of the energy actually is quantized. So this means whenever your molecule will have the rotational energy, okay, rotational energy molecule is having, I can write in that manner, okay, or you can say the angular momentum or rotational energy, whatever you want to say actually, right. And this rotational energy is also quantized. Okay. Or then this rotational energy basically depends on the shape and size of the molecule. Size means you simply going for the bond length, R is the bond length, and you know I equals to omega r square. That means your moment of inertia is depending on the bond distance. That's why this rotational energy is quantized, and it is different for the different kinds of the molecules. This is the basis why we have classified the molecules on the linear, spherical tops, symmetrical tops, oblate, prolate, okay, because they all have the different kinds of the quantized energy. So this you have to understand, and see this calculation can be made by solving the Schrodinger wave equation. But see for simpler system it is easy to solve the Schrodinger wave equation, but for the complex molecule it is not possible actually. So we should have some gross approximation, okay. But in case of the diatomic, we will see the case of the diatomic molecules, and we can very easily elaborate or use that the results of your diatomic molecules for polyatomic molecules also. This is very, very important to understand. So what actually I am trying to what I am trying to explain here actually. See, all forms of the molecular energy are quantized. This I have told you. This means the rotational energy is also quantized, which will depend upon the you see here for size and the shape of the molecule. Okay. So the permitted energy levels or the rotational energy levels or the J levels, okay, they may be calculated by solving the Schrodinger wave equation, okay, that represent a particular molecule. Okay. For simpler molecules, the mathematics is very straightforward, and but it is very, very complicated to solve this Schrodinger wave equation for a polyatomic molecules. It is very complicated. So we have to make some approximation. Okay. So what we will do, we shall consider each class of the rotating molecule in that case, and we will discuss the linear molecules also. Only linear molecules we will discuss, because see much of the treatment or the result which we will obtain for your diatomic molecules, linear diatomic molecules, they can be applied to the symmetrical or unsymmetrical molecules also. This you should know. So what approximation we can do here? It is something very, very important. So here I am explaining you the concept of the rigid rotor model, rigid rotor model. So why we need this model and what assumptions we will make in that case? So first of all, you see the what assumption you can take. So I am writing assumption here. So see, assumption 1, bond length doesn't change during rotation. During rotation of molecule. Okay, very very important. So what we could do actually in that case, actually we can have the two body problems. So if we have the two body problems connected with the rod, say for example, I am taking this example. Okay, before taking the example, I want to make a point here which is very very important. See, in physics you have studied in two body problems, two bodies actually connected by a rod, rigid rod rather you can say, and these two bodies are actually rotating with respect to each other. Okay, but these two body problems are not easy to solve. So here you can see what I am trying to say. For example, say this is a one body, this is second body, and this is connected by a rigid rod. It's a rigid rod, and these two actually are rotating with respect to each other. Okay, but these two body problems, I can write two body problems are not easy to solve, which is very actually it is very very difficult. So what we will do, we will change this two body problem into a one body problem. So we will change the two body problem into one body problem. This is the basic concept. Okay, and you know how we can actually convert this two body problem in the one body problem. Simply we take the concept of the center of gravity or center of mass. By using this particular concept of center of gravity or center of mass, we can very easily convert a two body problem into a single body problem, and single body problem are very easy to solve. Okay, so how we will do that? You see, say this is my chlorine atom. I am taking the example of the HCl molecule. Okay, this is the bond length and this is H. So what we are assuming in that case, these two are actually only revolving and the bond length doesn't change. This was our first assumption. The bond length doesn't change on the rotation. When they rotate, actually, say if it is rotating in that manner, in that case this bond length doesn't change. Okay, so here you can see we are taking the concept of the center of mass. So here M1 is the mass of the chlorine, and you can put M2 here, which is the mass of the hydrogen. There is no problem in that. Okay, and from here to here, this is the bond length actually. This is total bond length, which is R0. Okay, and see somewhere here, not exactly at the center but close to the chlorine, because chlorine is heavier than your hydrogen. So center of mass cannot be present at the right at the center of the bond length, but it could be placed towards the chlorine atom. Okay, so here somewhere here actually you are having the center of mass. So I am writing C for this one. This is the center of mass. So this distance from here to here, okay, say this is R2, and then from this center, from here to here, say this is R1. So when you include that concept of center of mass, C, center of gravity, okay, so we have converted actually a two body problem into a one body problem, and in that case there would be no vibrations, no vibrations. Okay, because we have already said that the bond length doesn't change. Bond length doesn't change means there are no vibrations at all. And C is the center of mass, and by definition you know what is the center of mass. It is the point at which weight is evenly dispersed at all sides are balanced. So you can Google the definition of the center of mass. You can find exactly the same definition which I have told you, actually, which I have written that from the Google only. Okay, center of mass of an object is the point at which the weight is evenly dispersed at all sides are balanced. Okay, this is something very, very important. Basically, it is rigid diatomic molecule. It is what? Rigid diatomic molecule. Okay, this we have assumed in that case. So this is something very, very important. Now what we can do, actually, see, at center of mass, at center of mass, what will happen? M1R1, which is the mass of the chlorine, into the length or this R1 distance from the center of gravity to the chlorine, that is R1, at this would be equal to M2R2. See, this is the definition of the center of mass. These actually these weight actually which are dispersed, they are balanced actually. Balance means M1R1 equals to M2R2. Okay, this is at the center of gravity, which is something very, very important. If you call this equation as the equation number 1, and by definition you know what was I, that is moment of inertia, I alpha. This would be the summation, that is sigma of n I equals to 1 mi Ri square. So this actually you have learned in my last lecture. So if you have problem with this one, you simply remember I is equals to mr square, nothing else. Okay, so in that case, what you can do here, in the light of this particular equation, you can write I equals to m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square for this particular rigid diatomic molecule, and this can be written as m1 r1 into r1. What we have done, we have divided this r1 square into r1. There is no harm in doing that. See, these are the simpler steps, but these steps are very, very important for the beginners, basically which are the students which are not having the mathematical background, and the students which are not very comfortable with the mathematical derivation. So we can write this equation just like that. Okay, and here what you can do, you can separate the variables. So how you can actually see, you have already see m1 r1 you have written here. So by separating the variable, what is the meaning? It is m1 r1 r2 plus m2 r1 r2. So it is not actually good to say the separating of the variable. Basically I am rearranging the equation. So why I am doing that? For here you will get I equals to, you can take r1 and r2 as the common entity, and then you are having your m1 plus m2. There is no problem in that. Say this is the equation number 2. Okay. Now you know at the center of mass this is already there. Okay. So at center of mass, say if you have written this particular one correctly, so what we can take here, say in the next page, what we can do, at center of mass, I am writing in that manner. Okay, you know what will happen, m1 r1 equals to m2 r2, this you have written in the last page, and you know the bond length was, it was r0. See, you can see here, this is r0. Okay, this bond length is r0. Okay, So in that case, what can happen? We can calculate the value of the R1. How we can calculate the value of the R1? Then R1 can be calculated as follows. Okay, how? You see, M1 R1 is given here, and you can write M2 R0 minus R1. So in place of R2 you can write this value. How? Go to the previous back slide. You are calculating this R2. Okay, this R2 you are calculating, and here the total distance is what? This is R0. Okay, and if you subtract this this R1, actually this R1, if you subtract from this R0, right, from this R0, if you subtract the value of the R1, then you will get the value of the R2. So simply we can write in place of the R2 R0 minus R1. So this is what I have done here. Okay, this is what I have done here. Now you can simplify this particular equation, that is M2 R0 minus M2 R1. Okay, and then again you can rearrange the equation. How? This is M1 R1 plus M2 R2. See what you have done, actually you have lifted this M2 R1, okay, and you have moved this along on the left hand side. Okay, so you have to little bit careful in doing this. We will put M2 R1 here. Okay, that would be equals to M2 R0, right? There is no problem in that. So again in that case you can see here R1 is common, you can take the R1 common. So this would be M1 plus M2, and that would be equals to M2 of R0. So from here you can get R1 equals to M2 R0 divided by M1 plus M2. Say this is the equation number 3. Similarly, what you can do, you can calculate R2 also. Similarly, R2 can also be calculated. R2 can also be calculated. So it's very simple, right? How you can do that? This was the M1. See, basically you are using this equation, okay, this one. So here R1, M1 you have written. Now you can write, since you are calculating for R2, so you can actually change this particular R1. So how you can calculate the R1? It's quite simple again. If you subtract R2 from this R0, then definitely you will you are getting your this R1 value, right, and that would be equals to M2 R2. So in the same way, if you solve this particular equation, then you will have R2 equals to M1 R0. I am not solving, you can solve by your own, it's very easy. This is M2. So this is the equation number 4. So you are getting these equations. Now you check your equation 2, 3 and 4. So what we can write here? We can write from equation 2, 3 and 4. Simply means, what is the meaning of that? We are putting the value of 3 and 4. That means we are putting the value of the R1 and R2 from equation to equation 3 and 4 to equation 2. Okay. So what was your equation 2? If you can if you go back actually, so this was your equation 2. I equals to R1 R2 M1 plus M2. So simply you will put the value of the R1, right, which is your M2 R0 divided by M1 plus M2. Then you will put this particular value, which is nothing but M1 into R0 divided by M1 plus M2, and then you will solve the expression. Okay. So here in that case you will have this kind of situation. I was there and you are putting the value of the R1. So your R1 is M2 R0 divided by M1 plus M2. Then you are putting the value of the R2, that is M1 R0 divided by the value of M1 plus M2, and this was multiplied by M2 plus M1. This was the situation in the last equation. Okay. See, you can go back again. You see here, this is simply your this is simply your M1 plus M2 here. Okay. So in that case you can cancel this M2 or M1 say first time. So there is no meaning in that. See, there is no harm in cancelling both of them. So M1 and M2 both are with the plus sign and they are present in the numerator and the denominator. Okay. So in that case you see here, what would be the I in that case? So your I would be equals to, if you solve properly this one, M1 multiplied by M2. So this was M2, this was M1. Okay. Divided by, you left with only M1 plus M2, and R0 is here, R0 is here, you are multiplying them, that means R0 square. Say this is the equation number 5. Okay. And this equation is very, very important. And this factor is basically what? This M1 by M2, M1 into M2 divided by M1 plus M2, it is reduced mass. It is reduced mass. Okay. And this reduced mass can be written as mu. So here you can change this expression to this one, I equals to mu R0 square, just like that. So this is your equation number 6 actually. But remember the axis of moment of inertia. See, this is the moment of inertia. This axis would be perpendicular to the molecular axis. Say if it is the molecular axis, I am writing MA for this one. So moment of inertia would be perpendicular to it, that is at 90 degree. This is very, very important to understand. Okay. I hope this makes the sense. Okay. So this is how you can generate this particular moment of inertia in the reduced mass. Okay. This is very, very important. You have already used this in the Raman spectroscopy, and you will also use this in the IR spectroscopy when I will solve the problem based on this. So now moving to the next, energy levels of the rigid diatomic molecules. So now I am discussing next thing, energy levels of rigid diatomic molecules. So this equation, though I have already explained in Raman spectroscopy, but again I am giving you how we can generate the expression. This will give you the practice actually how we can generate this one. See, you know, whenever the molecule is rotating, then it will have the angular momentum, and that angular momentum you can write like, say, L equals to I into omega. Say this is your equation number 1. Okay. And energy of the rotating molecule will be given as Ej equals to half I omega square, which is the equation number 2. Okay. And you know, according to the Bohr's concept, angular momentum is also quantized, and when angular momentum is also quantized, then you can write L equals to under root of J times J plus 1 multiply by h upon 2 pi, where h is the where J is the rotational quantum number, and J can have these values 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay. Now what we can do, you can actually change this energy expression little bit. How? Say you can write Ej equals to half I square omega square divided by I. So what I have done here, I have multiplied this equation to this I with I, that it would become I square, and then divided this equation by I. It will not make any difference, but it will solve the purpose. How? Now half is here, and you can write I omega square, okay, and divided by I. And you can check here, this I omega square is what? I omega is L, so I omega square is L square. So you can write here L square divided by 2 of I. This is how you can write. Say this expression, for example, say this is equation number 4. Okay, this was 3, this was 4. Okay, and now from equation 3 and 4, what we will do, you will put the value of the L from equation 3 to the equation number 4. So you can write here from equation 3 and equation 4. You can write in that manner. Okay, you will have Ej equals to under root j times j plus 1 times h on 2 pi. Okay, that means the value of the L you have put it, but here you can see the L square is there, so you can square it, divided by 2I. So what you have done, actually you have taken this value here from here, you have put it this value here, since it was a square, so you have made a square. And if you solve this now, so that would be j times j plus 1 h square divided by 2I was already there, and here would be 4 pi square. Okay, so you have squared this. Okay, so h square 2 square 4 and pi square, that's why it is 4 pi square. Okay, now you can simply write this expression just like that. So I am writing this here, Ej equals to h square divided by 8 pi square I multiplied by j into j plus 1, and that would be in joules. So this is the energy. Okay, this is how you can write actually, and this expression you are having here. This is energy expression. But if you want to see now what I can do, I can write this energy in terms of the centimeter inverse. So in centimeter inverse, when you actually convert this energy of joules, right, which I have written here, if you are converting this into the centimeter inverse, so you know what changes I can make here. Fj is simply the energy in terms of your Fj is actually your energy in centimeter inverse, nothing else. And for this you will multiply that energy which is given in the joules, or sorry, by multiplied with 1 by Hc, or you can simply multiply that Ej value by Hc, and when you do that, your Ej was h square divided by 8 of pi square I, j into j plus 1, and this would be your 1 upon Hc. Okay, so h and h would cancel out, and here you will have Fj equals to h upon 8 pi square Ic into j plus 1. See guys, this derivation or this energy actually I have already solved in my Raman spectroscopy also, but I have solved it again. Of course, this would be in centimeter inverse. And now this term actually, see, you see here, this term we can taken as constant, that is B. Okay, see, why B? Because H is constant, 8 is constant, pi is constant, C is constant, only I would depend upon the bond length, because it is depend on the C omega I R square actually. Okay. So, this value of the B can be calculated from the microwave spectrum or from the Raman spectrum. Okay. And then we can calculate all the things. So, simply we can write this equation just like that. Energy in centimeter inverse in rotational term, basically energy in the rotational term, it will give you the B J into J plus 1 centimeter inverse. This was the expression actually. So, here what you can do, you can calculate the various things. Say for example, how we can do that? See, here you can write the value of J, here you can write the value of Fj. So, J you can write say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you can calculate the energy here. So, for this you will get 0, for this you will get 2B, for j equals to 2 you will get the 6B, for j equals to 3 you will get the 12B, and after that 20B, and then 30B, then 42B, and then 56B. So, this is something very, very important which you should know. Okay. So, this is how you can write it. So, how we can do that actually? See, you can see the simpler calculations here. Your Fj you are calculating for j equals to 0. So, here you can see B is there in the expression. See, you focus on this particular equation. Okay. See, B is there and j you have put it 0, 0 plus 1, that will give you the 0. That is why this Fj is 0. Now, if you put j equals to 1, so B you are putting j equals to 1, that is 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 2, 2 ones are 2, that will give you the 2B, that is why you are having 2B here. So, you can randomly check for anyone. Say for example, I can check for j equals to 4. For j equals to 4 I am calculating. So, Fj equals to B. So, j equals to 4 you are putting here 4, 4 plus 1 5, 5 4s are 20, that means 20B. So, whenever you are having the j value of 4, there should be the energy energy equal to 20B. So, here j equals to 4 and here energy is 20B. Similarly, you can calculate for anyone. This is how. So, this rotational energy actually is quantized, okay, and this quantization factor is given in the table actually. So, what can happen? See, if you put j equals to 0. So, see what is happening in that case. What is happening in that case? In that case, molecule is at rest. It is not rotating at all when j equals to 0. Okay, and at j equals to 1, at this situation, at j equals to 1, see, this is actually equals to 2B. J equals to 1, it is equals to 2B. That means it is the lowest angular momentum. It is what? Lowest angular momentum. Similarly, you can calculate for any j value, but the important thing is that, see, listen carefully what I am trying to explain here. See, in general there is no limit of these j values. Okay. Say I have put it j equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can go up to the infinity. So, in general there is no limit to the rotating energy of a molecule, you can have any value. But what happens actually when your molecule is rotating, then the centrifugal force of the rotating molecule increases with the J value. So, what will happen in that case? You can see here, when J value increases, then centrifugal force also increases. This is something very, very important. Okay? And when J increases, centrifugal force increases, and the situation may come that your centrifugal force of the this centrifugal force of the rotating molecule would be greater than the bond strength. And what will happen in that case? Your bond will break. Bond will break. But this will not happen at room temperature. This will not happen at room temperature. So, we can assume these J values. So, listen carefully. See, there is no limit for the energy level J energy levels. However, the centrifugal force of the rotating molecule increases with the increasing J value, and there may be a situation that your centrifugal force would be greater than the bond strength at certain J value. In that case, your bond will break and you cannot actually study the microwave spectrum then. However, at normal temperature, that means if I am doing the experiment at 25 degree centigrade, this situation will not occur. So, this is the energy actually. Now, see, in that case, I hope this is actually clear to you. Now, what you can do, you can simply go for the next things actually, the transition. So, different kinds of the transition you can go for that. Say for example, what I am having, see this picture. This picture is very, very important. See, this is the J value, and here you see the J value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, when your transition is happening from J0 to J1, okay, when it is happening to J0 to J1. So, simply in that case from J0 to J1, this difference would be 2B. See, you can go back actually here. See, when your molecule is coming from this J0 to J1. So, in that case this difference is what? 2B. This is what I have written here. This is 2B actually, this difference 0 to 1. Okay. But when you are going to 1 to 2, say from here to here, when you are moving from here to here, that means 1 to 2. So, in case of 1 to 2, what you can check here, go back. See, now you are coming from this 1 to 2. So, when you are moving from 1 to 2, so what is the difference? Difference you can see here, 6B was already there, and then you have subtracted 2B, that will give you the 4B. So, here it was only 2B, but from here to here it is 4B. So, now you can check here, this gap actually increases, this 4B. Now, if you go from this 2 to 3, J equals to 2 to J equals to 3, now again go back, this is actually your J equals to 2 and you are coming from J equals to 2 to J equals to 3. So, what will happen? J equals to 3 at 3 is 12B and J equals to 2 is 6B. So, 12B minus 6B equals to what? It is 6B. So, earlier the difference was 2B, then it would become 4B, and after that it would become 6B. So, it is increasing gradually. So, what, see, you can observe this thing here. So, this gap actually which was very low initially from 0 to 1, it increases from 1 to 2, it further increases from 2 to 3 and it goes on increases. Okay. So, there may be the situation their bond may break actually. So, this energy actually you can decrease. Now, see, in that case what I see, this picture was actually showing these are the allowed energy levels. These are the allowed energy levels for a rigid diatomic molecule. Okay. And if you convert this into the spectrum, this is your microwave spectrum, this is the wave number actually. You know, energy is directly proportional to wave number also. So, if you put the J value of the 0, you will have this energy. If you put the J value of 1, you will have this energy. If you put the J value of this, you will have this particular energy. Okay. So, this is the resulting absorption spectrum. Okay. And this is something very, very important when you study the microwave spectrum. This is how you can get the microwave spectrum. And the very important feature which you will see here in all the cases, If you take the difference between here to here, this would be 2b. From here to here it is again 2b. From here to here it is again 2b. From here to here again 2b. So in all the cases you are having this difference of 2b when you are calculating your energy. This is something very, very important. Okay. So how you can do that? It's simply, see guys, for this you can have a very simpler formula. Say for example I am calculating for this one. Say I am having my value, this nu bar, that in wave number, j equals to 1 to j equals to 2 it is going. So you are having this expression, what you are having, nu bar, sorry, this I have already written here. So nu bar j, it goes to j plus 1 actually. See, here was 1, here it was 2. So I can correct it. Here it is 2. So it is j equals to j plus 1. That would be equals to 2b j into j plus 1. It is in centimeter inverse. This was the formula which you will use actually. Now you can put all the values here. See, if you put 0 here, then it would be 2b. Say for example, this was the 2b and you are putting 0 plus 1. Of course, that will give you the 2b. Say if you are putting, see 2b was already there, but you are putting 1 here. So 1 plus 1, 2, 2 2s are 4, it is 4b. So here 4b is here. So but if you put this value as, say 2b was already there and you are putting the j value of 2, that means 2 plus 1, 2, 3, 3 2 just 6, it is 6b. So this is how you are getting this 6b, okay, this 6b, this 8b, this all these things. So this is something very, very important, very important. So resulting absorption spectrum I have already shown. Thus the splitting between the successive line is 2b. That is the frequency, that is the frequency separation. But if you can recall in your Raman spectroscopy, this difference is actually 4b. You can recall my Raman spectroscopy where I have explained this 4b, but in that case it is 2b. So this is, guys, something very, very important. So this is how you can calculate the energy. So see, if you want, then you can derive this formula also. 2b equal to j 2b is j into j plus 1. So how actually, see how we can calculate the energy gap between the two successive energy levels. So very quickly I will show this also. Say you may have the confusion, so I am doing this also. Basically, it's a general physical spectroscopy part. Energy gap between two successive j values. Two successive j values. So how actually you are getting that particular formula? See, you know, energy difference you can simply write in terms of the wave number. There is no problem in that. Okay. And for this you may have your wave number when it is going to j equals to 0 to j equals to 1. In that case, what you can do, this is your rotational energy term at the final state, that means this here minus rotational energy term at j equals to this value. You can write here. Okay. So you can write initial for this one, and you can write final for this one. Okay. Then what you can do, you know what is Fj equals to Bj into j plus 1. You have already calculated in centimeter inverse. Just back you have calculated this one. Okay. Now what you can do, you can put the value of j equals to j1. Why? Because transition is happening from j to j plus 1. See, say for example, this is equation number 2. Put j equals to j plus 1 in equation 2. See, if you put here, then what will happen? You have put it j equals to j plus 1. So this would be j plus 1 now. See, this was b which was already there, that b, and in place of this j you will put j plus 1. Okay, now bracket. In place of this j, you will again put j plus 1. So, you will put the j plus 1 here, and plus 1 was already there in the formula. Okay. And if you solve this particular factor here, so you will get what? Okay, this is the value. Say what I can do, I can write this as equation number 3. So, what we will do, we'll put the value of j plus 1, this value. Okay, we will put this value of fj plus 1 here, and fj you are already having. So, from equation 1, equation 2 and equation 3. So, you can write here from equation 1, 2 and 3. So, what I can write? I can write nu bar j goes to j plus 1, which is this one. That would be equals to, we will put the value of fj plus 1. So, we will put this equation here. Okay. So, we will write the b j plus 1 to j plus 2. Okay. Basically, you know, this is what actually, this is b j plus 1 into j plus 2. Okay. This is actually the equation number 3. Okay. And then you see this minus sign, you will put here, and then you will put the value of the fj, which is what? bj into j plus 1 from equation 2. So, you will write b j into j plus 1. If you solve this equation thoroughly, then what you will get? B j square plus 3j plus 2 minus j square minus j, you will get this value. Okay. And if you solve this one, so see what can happen, this j square will cancel. Okay. From this 3, 1j is cancelled, it would be 2j now. So, you can write this equation as b 2j plus 2, which can also be written as 2b j plus 1. So, this equation basically you are getting that nu bar j to j plus 1, you are getting this 2b into j plus 1. Okay. This was the equation actually. See, this equation actually you were using here. Okay. This equation actually you are using there. So, energy gap is something different, which I have actually, I have for this I have shown you the formula. So, this is how you can make the different derivation, and you can understand these things very easily. So, this is the resonance phenomenon in your microwave spectroscopy. Energy for a rigid diatomic molecules in terms of the rotational term, that is Fj equal to Bj j plus 1, and then the energy gap between the two successive energy levels, which I have calculated by using the formula delta nu bar equal to 2b j into j plus 1. So, these formula are very, very important. I hope this actually the concept which I have explained is clear to you. In the next class actually, I will meet you with the selection rules and the relative intensity and some more things. Okay. And then in the next class we will take some, say, some non-rigid example, non-rigid model also, then go the different topics, different aspects of the microwave spectroscopy again. So, this will take 2 or 3 lecture more to complete this, and I will also solve the various problem asked in the CSIR net in the GATE examinations. Okay. So, if you like the lecture, if you understood the concept well, okay, please subscribe the Tetrahedron chemistry classes. Do share with your friends, and don't forget to like the video, guys. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much.